The San Francisco 49ers are in for another elite season. By retaining a lot of talents while adding more, along with some iconic and elite coaching schemes, the 49ers are ready to compete in the NFC yet again. I'm Chase Keller, and tune into this dive of the San Francisco 49ers, why I believe they will finish 13-4, and how they came up in 5th in my 2023 NFL Power Rankings. The San Francisco 49ers offense is an intriguing one to say the least. They have some of the brightest bright spots throughout the entire league, but there are some other concerns across the roster that give this offense the potential to be one of the most polarizing in the NFL. With that being said, let's dive into this offense. At quarterback, we are reaching away from a committee after head coach Kyle Shanahan said he's been the starter since last year ended. He was always clearly our starter, referring to Brock Purdy, the Mr. Irrelevant just 1 year ago. Purdy is a fascinating quarterback that I personally believed was worth a 6th round selection, and after an impressive rookie season, he jumps up from a 59 overall to a 73, just 1 point shy of the maximum 15. Before I get into the positives of Purdy, why didn't he get the maximum? Furthermore, why doesn't he have a breakout grade? When you take a look at the depth splits, you will understand that Purdy is not a good deep passer. On 20-plus yard passes, Purdy completed 5 for 13 for 175 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. 4 touchdowns on 5 completions is pretty impressive, but account for the 3 turnover-worthy plays, which is over 23% of those passes. I think that the league will figure out Purdy himself, knowing that they weren't really expecting him last year, and his efficiency will slow down. I need to mention that despite these negatives, Purdy is an accurate quarterback. Completing 67% of passes is impressive for a guy who was never expected to touch the field, let alone on 8.1 yards per attempt, which was 3rd among quarterbacks with over 150 dropbacks. So if Purdy does go down, or if he's not ready for the start of the season, who can play in his place? Well, we don't know at this point. Trey Lance has shown negative signs in the preseason, and 3rd-string QB Sam Darnold, who has been much better than Lance in the preseason, does not have that high upside that Lance does. Who knows what will happen with these backups? All that's important right now is that Purdy can return for the beginning of the season. The running back room is easily one of the better ones across the league, given that one of the NFL's best is here, followed by some great depth pieces compared to the average team. Christian McCaffrey is a dog. That's it. Seriously though, seeing a healthy season from McCaffrey was a treat last year, with his ability to make plays in the air and on the ground. Nearly 1,900 total yards and 13 total touchdowns should be enough to convince you that McCaffrey is elite. Arguably, he was better in the air last year, and with some of the NFL's best vision, he needs a backfield to himself. With this depth though, he will not get his own backfield. As shown last season, Elijah Mitchell will step in when healthy and take plenty of carries away from McCaffrey. Taking over 30% of snaps and pulling decent production is what we saw in Mitchell's short 4-game season. He's worth it, as while he's barely healthy, he is very shifty and always finds the best way to get the most yards. If both of these guys go down, which isn't out of the picture, Jordan Mason is a great 3rd option. I loved Mason as a 2022 prospect, and he was one of my favorite undrafted free agents last year. He played his ass off in limited snaps last season, so he jumped 4 overall points going into 2023. The wide receiver room is on the brink of being elite, but for now, it sticks back to the great tier. 2 superstar players will help that happen, obviously. That first superstar is Deebo Samuel, and while 2022 wasn't his best follow-up, his 2021 season is commonly underestimated as to how good it truly was. Deebo is a dual-threat receiver who can play very well as a gadget player. In 2021, he added 365 rushing yards to his already 1,400 receiving yards and 18 yards of reception. Those numbers are elite. The underrated Brandon Ayuk makes the superstar tier going into year 4. He's a consistent receiver who may have a low ceiling, but putting up 3 straight reliable seasons with continuing development will help bring him up very high. According to PFF, he has had 2 seasons with an 80 rating or higher. With increased volume inevitably coming, that number is bound to increase, but I already believe he's a superstar. The next 3 receivers do hold this core back from elite levels though, as none of these guys are particularly close to starting caliber. Juwan Jennings has developed, and he could become starting caliber for next year, but for now, nothing too great. Ray McCloud is a very athletic receiver, but nothing much more comes with this game, so he's also not too great. And Chris Conley comes to another new team as San Francisco's wide receiver 5. The tight ends also being elite shows how important having a great QB room is. George Kittle very much carries this room as the NFL's second best tight end. His last 5 seasons have been very impressive, and his versatility to work as a receiver and an inline blocker is phenomenal. Kittle is renowned as a superstar, so now I need to mention that Brock Purdy has 4 superstar targets in Kittle, McCaffrey, Debo, and Ayuk. So if Purdy's stats are inflated by these targets, don't be too alarmed. After him, there isn't a lot to note, but I want to point out that while despite being a bad selection, Cameron Latu stays at tight end 2 with high red zone upside and good athleticism. After them, there isn't a lot to love as Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner are third string caliber players. Moving on to the falling offensive line, there is one starting caliber player in this group. Yet, that player is one of the best at his position and elevates this O-line to an under average rating. That guy is Trent Williams. He is a man among boys with his elite combo blocking and perfect fit for the 49ers offense. Since joining San Francisco in 2020, Williams has elevated himself to elite status. The problem is, he's turning 35 tomorrow, and his play can start to decline at any moment. As for the rest of the line, it's not strong at all. I do want to point out Aaron Banks, who is a potential breakout on this O-line. For now, I believe we shall wait until next year for that classification. Outside of Banks, the rest of the guys all land among the good backup tier, just like Banks, but none of them are starting caliber players. Hopefully Williams can hold up, and if he can't, this line is in trouble. Discussing the offensive coaching, yeah, it's elite. There are 2 head coaches that are starting to flip my opinion on run-first offenses. Kevin Stefanski and Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan focuses on a zone run scheme, a scheme to get their athletic and elusive running backs on the edge to utilize their vision and athleticism as best as possible. It's clearly worked the last few years as the 49ers have developed the likes of Raheem Mostert, Elijah Mitchell, Carlos Hyde, Matt Breida, Jeff Wilson, and more. Now give them Christian McCaffrey, a perfect piece to the scheme, and you have a phenomenal offensive layout. To summarize, the 49ers offense is going to depend on the performance of quarterback Brock Purdy. If the targets help him as much as they can, this offense can be elite next year. This defense has been one of the NFL's best for the last 4 seasons, including being statistically the best in 2022. They may have lost defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans to the Texans, but by bringing in another worthy coordinator, along with retaining a majority of starters, this defense is looking to return to that number 1 spot. At the moment, I see this defensive roster being the 4th best in the league, so let me explain. This edge group is another great group peeking into the elite tier. Led by Nick Bosa, this group has heavy upside but nobody proven outside of a top 5 NFL player. Bosa has been insanely disruptive every year of his career, battling inside the top of pressures along with being a phenomenal run defender. Last season, Bosa put up 90 pressures, first, 18.5 sacks, first, and 30 quarterback hits, landslide first. It's almost impossible to stop him with this combination of athleticism, play strength, and technique, a combination that tops the league. Behind Bosa, there are no starting caliber players. Yet. Second-year player Drake Jackson has the opportunity to shine outside of a rotational role with his intangibles and quick athleticism. Jackson's 2022 rookie season was decent, outside of the fact that a lack of snaps held him back. And it's not like he's going to be receiving 800 to 900 snaps this season either, as a group behind him of Kerry Hyder, Clellan Ferrell, and Robert Beal Jr. is not bad. Despite that, Drake Jackson still receives breakout grade number 1 on this roster. There's one more to go, so keep watching. Now, what happens if Bosa's holdout extends into the season? If so, this edge group is in a lot of trouble. Moving on to the interior defensive line, this group standing at an above average level is key to the pass rush success if Bosa's holdout continues. One of the NFL's biggest offseason signings lands here, and if that doesn't happen, this group looks a lot different. Let's start with this counterpart though in Eric Armstead. Armstead is one of the NFL's best pass rushing defensive tackles. It's no surprise that he was rushing off the edge before his injury-riddled 2022, where he saw a majority of snaps at the defensive tackle position. In the 349 snaps he played last season, Armstead did have a little bit of a down year, but his pass rush efficiency was still there. If he returns to full health in 2023, I believe that Armstead will return to his great levels. Talking about this significant signing, Javon Hargrave has put together some elite pass-producing seasons, including last year where he put up 57 pressures and 11 sacks from the inside. The only issue I have with Hargrave is that he is strictly a pass rusher, as the last few seasons his run defense has not been good. Nonetheless, if Bosa holds out, Hargrave is the perfect piece for this team. Armstead will likely kick out to the edge, and Hargrave will play the inside with Javon Kinlaw. Kinlaw isn't notable outside of the fact that he's been a draft bust since entering the league in 2020. The linebacker group here is another above average position that feels like it should be in the great tier. With one superstar and another guy close to stardom, it's really the depth that holds this group back. Fred Warner is obviously a superstar and the best linebacker in the NFL. Warner's been good all around since entering the league, and especially recently, he's been at the top of the league in run defense, stuffing rushers every chance he gets. His tackling could be improved on, but everything general like run defense, pass rush, and coverage, that's all great. We already know about how elite Fred Warner is. Let's discuss how underrated Dre Greenlaw is. He's so close to stardom, and I believe he doesn't get enough respect or attention for that. Greenlaw was amazing in coverage last year, holding receivers to 8.2 yards per reception and allowing only one touchdown. Even then, his run defense is good and his overall instincts are great. We've seen one of these great seasons out of Greenlaw, and if he has another one as expected, he will at least jump to star level. Now, the depth behind these two is the reason that this group is just above average. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles has never had a season over 164 snaps, but I've always thought of him as underrated. Even then, he is a middle linebacker, and my favorite starter on the outside is 6th round rookie D. Winters, who is tiered as a 3rd string level guy. I do really like his athleticism and his coverage upside nonetheless. Moving into the secondary, is anyone shocked that we have another above average group? This cornerback room is just another group with one high rating and questionable depth, but their second option is just under starting caliber. Starting with Charvarius Ward, he jumped to elite levels for 2022, making his jump in my rating system from a 76 to an 86. He made a massive switch to cornerback 1 and did not disappoint, still allowing a low completion percentage with some good production on top of it. Ward does need another season guarding wide receiver 1s for me to consider him as a superstar. For now, his great lockdown abilities and deep speed makes him a star cornerback. Moving past him, having Isaiah Oliver at cornerback 2 is not the best option. He did have a good 2022 season, but he didn't go over 400 snaps for the second straight year, which does raise concerns for me. Even with the snap count, he allowed 8.5 yards per reception, which could have stayed if he played 1,000 snaps. Oliver isn't a great starting option, but he's a viable one given the depth. Diomodor Lenoir is projected to start on the outside, but I do believe Womack is the better option. It's general because I was higher on Womack as a prospect, as I do like his anticipation a lot more than Lenoir. Finally, the safeties do not land above average, instead mirroring it along the middle to go under average. Losing Jimmy Ward is a big deal for the safety group, but the rise of Talanoa Hufanga is a big watch. Both last year and this year were efficient for Hufanga, but his production shined more in 2022, going for 4 interceptions and 6 pass breakups. Yet, I do find it hard to believe that we've seen the best of Hufanga. While I do believe he is a little bit overrated, he's still got a lot in the tank. Given this information, he receives the team's second and final breakout grade. The battle for safety number 2 is going to be a fun one. Tayshaun Gibson will likely get the spot with his 11 years of experience and his elite run support. Jair Brown will be close though, as despite going in round 5, he also displays great run support and the youth will be in store. As for George Odom, he's more of a special teams threat, but he should make the roster as safety number 4. The defensive coaching did take a step back with the loss of DeMeco Ryans, the NFL's best defensive coordinator. It is basically impossible to stay at the same caliber, but it's not like they picked picked up a nobody, as Steve Wilks is still an A-grade coordinator. Wilks is a 4-2-5 defensive coordinator with a focus in closing in the game. He is a heavy blitzer alongside pushing all of his corners and safeties close. Wilks' secondaries have historically been great, and with the secondary being the worst area on the defense, a focus there should help elevate this 49ers defense to number 1 again. To summarize, the 49ers defense has been elite for years, and it's on track to be elite again. There are question marks, but there's also upside, leaving me to believe that this defense will retain top-tier abilities. Before I end the video, I go over the rating splits for offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and overall team. If you are interested in how the rating system works, it is in the description below. Kicking it off with the offense, they received a 76.36, which is 15th in the NFL, 6th in the NFC, and 1st in the NFC West. The defense came out at a 76.41, which is 4th in the NFL, 2nd in the NFC, and also 1st in the NFC West. The special teams came out at a 73.11, which is 10th in the NFL, 4th in the NFC, and also 1st in the NFC West. And the coaching came out at a perfect 10 out of 10, which is an 80, coming out tied for 1st in the NFL, tied for 1st in the NFC, and not clear-cut 1st in the NFC West, but still tied. As an overall team, they receive a 77.31, which is 1st in the NFC West, 2nd in the NFC, and 5th in the NFL. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I have 4 teams remaining in the series, and you're missing out. Once again, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys so much for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage. I'll see you guys in the next video.